Well, interesting week. It's trying to keep perspective on everything right now. We've won 3 games. We've won 2 of them handily, but we have not played the upper echelon. The one upper echelon team we played, we got beat. So there's a reality to this whole thing. It's going to be a tough week and a tough 2 weeks ahead for us when you look at a Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday tilt, and a couple more still on the road. Everybody knows, is probably playing as well as anybody in the league. When you can go into Purdue, when you can beat Michigan State, they've played very well. I don't think anybody should think that that loss was because Valentine wasn't with us. To be honest with you, that loss, it was because we played as poorly, and they had something to do with it, but we did not play with the energy and effort that is should be expected by you, me, or our fans with our team. Every loose ball we didn't get, as I said that night, watching the film again. We had a quiz, guys, and you missed the first 3 minutes. I always have the quiz at the beginning like our profs, so you guys will flunk this today. But, we just didn't do the little things that it takes to win. And I think we've changed some, but I also think the level of competition has changed a little bit. Valentine is going to be a big factor for us moving forward, but at the same time, we have to play better as the rest of our group. As far as Iowa goes, a little odd to play them for the second time in a 2-week period. I'm not a fan of that, but it's going to happen to all of us throughout the year, and it's just the way it works out. The conference has to do what it has to do to keep all the other things in place, like how many road games in a row you play and things like that. But it is odd. But at the other side of it, the game's still fresh in everybody's mind, meaning we know what we did wrong. We knew what we didn't accomplish. The scouting report is going to be similar, so there'll be some pluses to the minuses. Obviously, our guys need to play better, but Udolph didn't play very well against us either. He was in foul trouble, although half our team was in foul trouble with Forbes and Harris especially going out in the first half. So I think both teams are playing better than we played in that game. I think Fran's done a heck of a job with his team. I think they've got the most veteran team maybe in the conference as far as starters and guys that have played. I said I thought Clemens was a big addition into that lineup, and I thought he helped them, even though if you look at him stat-wise, he's kind of their Travis Walton. He just does things that help them win that don't go in the stat sheets. But at the same time, I think getting Gavin back now a little bit more has helped. I think Marv is a better player than he was then. It's helped. And definitely Denzel will be back, and that's going to help us a lot. But I'm more interested in how we practice today and tomorrow, because the energy level better be up. Because that, to me, was the most disappointing game I played in a couple of years. And again, not with the loss, but maybe the way we played. So, questions?
Tom, do you look to move Denzel back into the lineup? And if so, how does Aaron kind of manage going back from start?
Yeah, I talked to Aaron about it since the season started. I'll get a better idea today. Practice, we were off yesterday. The game plan is he will move back into the starting lineup. Whether it'll be this game or one more game, I don't know yet. But my thoughts were he probably will. And it's my decision, but it's going to kind of go how we play, and I don't think it'll affect Aaron's minutes at all. Right now, Aaron's playing probably the best defense he's played since he's been here. His offense, he's been very consistent. He is playing well, and what I got to do is get Bren playing a little better on the defensive end, because he's playing well on the offensive end. I think I have a very good rotation there if we get McQuaid to quit being a freshman, and with the serious ups and downs, which is going to happen some. I think we'll have a great rotation there. And even with Javon Best now, when you play teams that are bigger, like this team or Purdue is, he gives us something, too, on the perimeter. So I think we have a good combination of 10 guys that we can really get some valuable, not only play out of, but the subbing shouldn't be as big a fall off. And in Aaron's case, I think he'll play the same amount of minutes or very close to it. It'll just be in different ways.
Tom, you've talked about how they didn't play the way you wanted against Iowa, but are you sensing from them that they've also understood that as well, and that is some sort of motivation to?
Oh, they understood it well. Now, then don't take nothing away. I mean, Iowa, Clemens had something to do with it. A couple of the other guys had something to do with it. But as we said in our film session, that, I mean, running after a loose ball has nothing to do with who else is playing good. It has to do with what you do. So I think they know it. And the greatest part was when Denzel's sitting out, you see a lot more sitting out than you do playing. And so he coached some of those film sessions back then. And I think he has a great understanding that we didn't do it. And it's not been the norm for us, and it's not been the norm for any player. So I think it was, hey, maybe I'm at fault. Maybe our guys didn't know how to handle my situation a day after what happened. Maybe there was a lot of extenuating circumstances. Getting beat is okay. Getting beat when you're lacking the effort. You had 16 turnovers. They got every loose ball. You got 32 free throws they shot because we're out of position. Those things are unexcusable, and I haven't seen it much here in the last couple of years. Hopefully I won't see that again. That doesn't mean we'll win the game, but we'll play a lot more efficiently, I think, than we played.
Two questions. First, an NBA owner came out talking about millennials, and you have been able, especially the last 3 years, to handle them better than most. What is your key to dealing with today's young millennial player?
Boy, that's a good question, because I listen to some of the talking heads. I make my guys watch the national championship game in football all the time because I think the hype and the build-up to it, a lot of you guys, a lot of media people are talking about different things that make a lot of sense. I said you should listen and watch the human interest stories and really get a feel. And there was a lot of talk from, with Saban being who Nick is, there's a lot of talk on, how did the new age guys handle it, and how much harder it is today to push guys, compared to what it was back when that other guy with the houndstooth hat was there. And some of it came to the culture you're in, and I think how I've handled it is the great guys that have played before, they still, talk that way. I mean, if Draymond would have been at that game, or Travis Walton would have been at that game, or Mateen Cleaves would have been at that game in Iowa, I wouldn't have to say a word. I just sat back in the locker room and let them rip people. There is a standard here that you have to play by. And I think in great programs, even though you have to deal with kids a little differently and maybe spend a little more time here and there, the standards to winning championships doesn't change. It doesn't change. Players play, tough players win was good 15 years ago, and it's going to be good 15 years from now. And I don't care what sport it's in. And again, we watched two of the best defensive teams play again last night. It just doesn't change. So I'd say, how have I dealt with it? I've asked for more help from the players before. I've asked for Denzel to do a little bit more, and Tom, the guys that I know are kind of, ripped from the same cloth, kind of to say. And then I use these analogies. I take guys to the football games. I have them watch games, and I have them watch NBA games and NFL games, and I just keep talking about it. Who's winning still? It's the guys that stay to the same standards that there were 20 years ago. And somebody said it. One of the talking heads said it. Players still want to go where they're going to win. Players want to go. I got a nice letter from Buck Nystrom. As all of you remember Buck, and I hadn't talked to him for a while, and kind of keep to the same standard he kept when I played a little bit of spring ball back at Northern Michigan, discipline is something that everybody's looking for. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be cared about. Doesn't matter if you were born 5,000 years ago or you're going to be born 500 years from now. Those things, there's certain things that are going to withstand the test of time. And I think that the minute we give into that stuff, you won't see me speaking at this podium. I promise you that, because I believe in things I saw last night. I believe in things that I've done here. I believe in great coaches that I've seen before me. I think that those standards are the same. We have to adjust to them. We have to handle them a little differently. We have to massage them a little differently. But at the end of the day, if you can't get your team, and I saw two teams last night that I thought, that quarterback from Clemson, you talk about a guy with guts and heart. I was impressed by him. I didn't get to see him much. So it just reaffirms my belief that you still got to be a good guy. You still got to be a driven guy. You still got to be a disciplined guy, as we learned from the Bengals game the other way. Those things are the same, man. They don't change if you're going to win championships. Games, yes. Championships, no. So, and then I get lucky. I probably recruit guys that, Denzel Valentine is a perfect guy for me. He can take my stuff, he can give a little bit, and he can really spread the good word. And I've been fortunate in that. So,
Nick talked about last year's team suffered, even good kids, because of distractions with draft prognosis for underclassmen. Deontay's not an egomaniac, but the first mock comes out from ESPN has him going higher than Zell in the first round. I know he's not an egomaniac, but you still have to control that, Nick said, either way. So how do you?
Talked to Nick about it this summer. I asked him, what do you think happened last year? You hit the nail on the head. That was the first thing he brought up, and we all got to deal with that. We got to deal with that because of those damn phones we all hold, including me. But that's why, I haven't had as many commercials this year, but I don't feel any differently. Those things are evil because they cause problems. They give false hope. They like I told my team, don't feel comfortable where we are. We've beaten 3 teams, and we've beaten 2 handily. But as I look at the standings, those 3 teams are in the bottom 5. Glass half full, glass half empty, I don't know. But, I laughed after in the press conference. Let me tell you something. I think Deontay Davis is going to be the best big man that played here in a lot of years. I also think he's got a lot of growth right now. And like I said, he is no ego. He's got to gain some. He's got to get one. But if he grows into it, it's going to be good. He's got a great high school coach that has been on top of a lot of things, and the drafts I saw had Denzel still ahead of him, but I get your point. He's moved up like all big men do. All big men are higher, and my goal would be when Deontay Davis, if it's next week, next month, next year, or a year from now, is ready physically, mentally. That's when he should look to the next level. But remember, there's more than one-dimensional. Can't be just 6'10". Right now, he's got to work on staying out of foul trouble. In 3 of the 4 games, he's playing limited minutes because of foul trouble, not because of the minutes he could play. But I think there's enough good people around him, and I think to keep his head on. And, hey, you know what? I hope when the end of the year he's a lottery pick. I hope he's a top 5 pick, and if he's mentally ready to go, he goes. That means we had a hell of a year. He had a hell of a year, and we're going. I'm so far beyond that now as far as that part goes. But I'm also leery of, what people around say, do, and so we'll combat that. You couldn't have said it better, though. Here's a program like Alabama. And that was the first thing out of his mouth to me. And that's the first thing you heard in watching and listening to what he said about this year's team compared to last year's team. That's our job, though. Our job is to keep them focused And that's why sometimes our job is to get mad at fans and media for saying things that they really have no idea. Even a mock draft. What's a mock draft? I mean, I've seen guys picked high that never go. I've seen guys, I just watched a walk-on last night catch more passes than Carter got liver pills, And so it's not an exact science. And I'm just excited that he's good enough that we're getting that recognition. I have a couple guys that are being talked about for the NBA already. That's good for me.
Tom, you've got 3 guys on the court, maybe for the final time together, from Lansing Sexton Thursday. You've seen a lot of great teams around the state and seen a lot of basketball in this city. And I'm not saying it's Robert, Mateen, Antonio, or the Perry Western, Southwestern teams, but in this area, where does that group that also had Jalen Hayes and Trevor Manuel's a young player, where does that team rank in terms of what you've seen in this area, and who compares?
Well, I think when you look at the talent of that team and how it's, and how it's grown, like it wasn't just us that maybe missed out on Bryn Forbes or missed out on Sapp. It wasn't just us. I mean, a lot of other teams did too, because they maybe weren't quite there, and that's even what's neater about this whole deal. Some guys get a chip on their shoulder and get better, and some guys already think they've arrived and get worse. And I think for that team, when I look at, as you say, a young Jalen Hayes, I mean, different guys, first of all, I think it's why Denzel Valentine's a special guy. He was well coached in high school. And I don't say that because Carlton's a Michigan State guy, because Carlton's a friend. Carlton's an SOB. I mean, he's tough, okay? But look what he's produced. And none of those guys, not one of those guys that you just mentioned has a big ego. And you know what? I know of 4 of them that I think right now are really successful. And so that even, and Hondo and I were just discussing, that even brings it more to fruition that if you keep your head on and you keep your sights straight and you don't let things get in the way. I mean, I thought Clemens was going to transfer 2 years ago. He wasn't playing, didn't seem to be happy. I see him there, and he was just on the bench. He stuck with it, and Franny stuck with him, and give him credit, because I told you in a sort of weird way, I thought he was the difference maker against us. But one of the more talented teams I've seen in this state, when you look at what they've accomplished after they left, that means the base of what they had there was really special. It means that those guys might have been coached as well mentally as they were physically, because they weren't everybody's All-American, but they all learned a work ethic, and they're all, I've been really impressed with the Hayes kid down there, and how much he's improved. If you look at Bryn Forbes, how much has he improved? If you look at Denzel Valentine, how much has he improved? If you look at Clemens, how much has he improved? Whew, that's a lot of improvement, and that means that you had one hell of a base growing up with no egos, no everybody patting you on the back telling you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, no big AU super teams, just lunch bucket guys with a lunch bucket coach. And they should be poster children. They should put a big poster up of those 4 guys, and we should all aspire to be like them.
Tom, questions about Kobe. His backstory, your thoughts on his backstory that has got him here. How good is it to have a guy like that around this team, and what is it about him that has him still earning some minutes and staying in your rotation for the most part?
Well, he lost his minutes for a while because he because I'm as dumb as a lot of people, I guess. I said all summer, Kobe's going to play. And then you get down and you look at our playing group and you look at the athletes, and Kobe can't play here. And so I played him early. He was playing 10, 12 minutes a game, and then I didn't play him for a while because I'm going to bring other people in. And he is what he is, what he did yesterday. Yesterday he was at, I think, Vanderbilt. I think it was his 5th medical school he's going to visit, and trying to get a scholarship there. He's He's been at Stanford. He's been some incredible places. And he's smart. He cares. He's an unbelievable teammate. And someday, when I'm looking up and he's operating on me, I'm going to be smiling. No matter what the surgery is for, I want to be smiling because I know I got one of the best taking care of me. And so he's half on the team for my future. He's half on the team for my present. But he is playing. The other night, put him in that first half. He made a difference. He's made a difference in a couple games in what he does. And why he does it? Because I think his best function on this team right now, he is like a personal basketball tutor to Didi. Every day, Didi has to guard him, and Kobe helps him through his assignments and the learning process. Unbelievable job. If he never scores another point, he's going to be very valuable to not only me, but very, very valuable to Deontay Davis. And that's what he's done.
Tom, looking at that back at that Iowa game, what exactly did they do to stop Bren in that game, and what kind of things do you think he needs to do differently? Was part of it Clemens on him and that matchup, or?
I think part of it was that. I don't think all of it was that. I think if Bren got in foul trouble the first half, sat on the bench for at least 10 minutes, and then the second half got his first foul 3 minutes into the game. As I tell the NCAA and everybody else, it's not just fouling out of games sometimes. It's how you play when you have 2, 3, and 4 fouls, and everybody does that differently. I also think Clemens did a very good job on him, and I think, we maybe didn't call enough stuff for him. I think it's one of those things where everybody gets some credit, meaning from their team, everybody gets some blame on ours. Did we screen well enough? Did the coach call enough plays? Did we get him in a position to be successful? And did he do enough? And I'd say we dropped the ball on our side, and they raised the ball on their side. So we're going to do a better job this time.
Tom, a little bit off the subject here, but you've probably ran out of superlatives for a guy like Draymond Green. Can you see what he's doing now in the NBA? Is this anything you would have imagined for him? And what do you think when you watch him now, the player he's become?
Well, of course I saw that. I'm a good coach. I saw every bit of it. I thought he'd have all these triple doubles. I thought he'd, lead them to a championship. Are you crazy? I didn't see any of it. I really didn't. I thought he'd be a guy that could survive in that league. But, like a Denzel, and I don't want to compare him, but if you looked at his career, he got better every year. And he had one intangible that is really, really, really hard to coach. A huge basketball IQ. It's hard to coach. And it's hard to coach a guy to become meaner. He had that. His mother gave him that. His high school gave him. Where he was brought up gave him that. He had those things. Denzel has that, His family has given him that. I have not given him that. And when you have that ability to get better each year, better to have a high basketball IQ, and to be a competitor, I think you have a chance to continuously getting better. It's scary for me because I think when I talk to Day, he's going to keep getting better. Just look at what he's changed, and his body is so much better. Just so many areas of his life have changed. And is it surprising? Why should it be? He did it for 4 years. Why wouldn't that make us think? That's the sad part about, I feel bad for the NBA, where I feel good for the NFL. They get to see whether a guy actually gets better each year. And with all the drafting on potential instead of performance, sometimes they don't get to see that. So there are a lot of teams that passed on Draymond, and I understood it to a certain extent, but you can't measure a guy's heart or will to win or will to get better. And the only way you can see if a guy's getting better is if each year he improves some. And that's what I think, Zell's done the same thing. But No, I didn't see it coming to this level with Draymond. Proud, happy. You're right. I've run out of words for him because he kind of, he had another big game last night. He kind of exceeds everything I think, but I also know he'll play hurt. I know winning is the most important thing to him, and I think he's a little more talkative than Zell, but I think he backs up what he says. So I'm good. I like him in the commercials.
We got to see your guys get tested with Denzel out, and this may be an obvious question because we can see it on TV, we can see it in person in the games. Having him back on the court, how much does that change this team? And maybe not just on the court, but in the room and everything.
I think the biggest thing is how seamless it is. We saw a couple years ago when we lost 3 guys there for a while. I think it was Appling, Payne, and Dawson, and they came back, and it was a disaster for a couple games. Just because maybe it was too many guys to be gone. Maybe they didn't understand how to come back as well as Denzel. Like the first half, he had some open shots, but he rushed a few of them. And I told him at halftime, you're going to have to figure out whether you're going to let the game come to you. And second half, I thought he was just excellent. His defense was better. He talked more. I keep reminding him, speaking of Sexton and his, when we had the meeting, I also brought his dad in because we were trying to decide when to play him. I think his dad gave the ultimate line. He said, I know the doctors can tell you, the coach can tell you when you're physically ready, but I'm more worried about when are you mentally ready? When are you going to still be the same leader? When are you going to still do this? When are you going to still be talking to guys? I didn't think the first half he was that. And that was a little bit of an adjustment. The second half, I thought he did it off the charts. And I think now being out is going to help from this reasons. Yes, we had a couple guys that got better. Harris, maybe Costello, maybe Didi, got more touches. Number 2, I think Zell had as tough a summer as you could have with, the hernia surgery, then the LeBron camp, then the USA basketball, then the trip to Italy. Maybe he did need a little bit of a break, so it was forced. And I think he's going to be fresher. I think also it helps to sit on the bench or sit with the coach and talk with the coaches as a coach instead of as a player. And when you're sitting out, I used him that way. Huddles, I'd say, what do you think? And so I think it's going to be more seamless because it wasn't too long. He's a unique player, and he's loved by his teammates. There's no jealousy, which creates problems sometimes. But I still think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment. And, I think in people's minds, I can see it already that, well, we lost to Iowa, but we didn't have Denzel. Well, Utah didn't play very good either, and that isn't going to make the difference. What Denzel might make the difference is if he can influence some of the other guys to play better than they played at Iowa. But it's not going to all fall in Denzel's hands.
Tom, on Sunday it seemed like Gavin certainly had his best performance since before he got injured. So just moving forward, how big is it to see him kind of get back to being as dominant as he was in preseason, and what does that mean for him going forward?
Well, he gives us a dimension. I think it's very important. He gives us a dimension where at 6'9", he can guard guards, and he's got great lateral foot speed. And as he lets his offense slows himself down a little bit, Gavin, if he was an engine, the RPMs would be off the charts, and like everything else, you got to slow down a little bit. But you can see now that he's getting a little more comfortable 3-4 games back. I think you're starting to see a little bit of that with Marvin Clark too. I mean, we saw a big jump in his performance. Now, sometimes you got to look at it, who are we performing against, things like that. So keeping everything in perspective. But even when I'm in practice and Marvin's got to go against Gavin, that's a pretty good illustration of what you're doing. So I think Gavin is very important to this team right now. I'd like to see him rebound a little bit better. For as big a body, he did a better job the last game before. I think he got 1 or 2, but his defense and is starting to understand it and is getting top notch. And when that happens, we're going to be a better team because then we can come in with a smaller guy like Marv, who can maybe make some threes. We can play him and Deontay together a little bit more. And that's going to help us. It's going to help Deontay a little bit. And so it's a very valuable part of us. It's an option. I told you this summer, I told you at the fall meeting that the best big man of the summer by far was Gavin Schilling. And, Matt Costello has raised his game another level too. But as far as the summer and the fall, Gavin was the guy until he got hurt. And I think he's getting back to where he was a little bit, and that would really help us.
With all the talk of Deontay's playing time the past couple weeks, how do you think he's responded to that in the last couple games?
Well, I think he's responded fine, except that he's what I call, there were times when we didn't play him as many minutes because there's things he's got to be able to do. There were times that I would say he self-checked himself. When you're in foul trouble, you put yourself on the bench. Coach doesn't put you on the bench. And as I said, he's been in foul trouble 3 out of 4 games, and it's just learning how to adjust to that. And he's doing a better job. I love coaching this kid. If I looked at when he came in July and where he is now, and some of you have interviewed him, some of you, it's not just the hair that changed. This kid has really developed, and he's even becoming more talkative on the court. I think his grandmother said he was even more talkative when he went home for Christmas. He's making big strides. I'm not. Make sure you understand. We're not trying to hold him back, but his progress has been made because it's taken steps like it's supposed to be in life, and I don't want to miss out on something on that either, because he's going to have a hell of a future in front of him. I'll make sure he's ready to do what he's got to do when he gets to the point. And that point will be Thursday night, because he's got to help us, win more games here.
Tom, you kind of alluded to it with Draymond, but when you have a guy like that that's in the media spotlight when he's doing commercials, what kind of things do you guys get back as a program aside from that $3.1 million?
No, trust me, Draymond's given me, that money is peanuts, and I hate to insult him for what he's given me. It's the phone calls, it's the texts, it's the talking to the other players, it's coming back in the summers. Those are worth millions and millions of dollars, because he helps. Him and Denzel have a very good relationship. They talk often. Him and Tom talk often, and Draymond will post anybody up, including me. And he to me is E.F. Hutton. If he speaks, I listen, because I know he's being honest with me. Now, I've come back at him a couple times and told him why I'm doing certain things or this and that. And then, like a good guy too, he sees both sides of things. But what does he have that most people don't have? He really cares about the people that he was close to, or the people that he thinks helped him. And unbelievable loyalty to those people, maybe as much as any player I've ever seen. And, he has loyalty to Mateen and them. He has loyalty to Jason Richardson. He has loyalty to, who was a great football player that came out of there that went to Michigan, Lamar Woodley. Lamar used to come to games here. He has great loyalty to people that he has respect for. And you have to earn your respect with him. Draymond gives nothing. You earn everything. And that's what makes it so special. I think he helps our players every day just by how he handles himself and what he does there. And, when he's at a practice, when we're in Dallas, and he's telling them what he thought of the Iowa game. He watches a lot too, like Magic. He spends a lot of time watching, so he knows what he's talking about.
I'm just wondering your impression your first couple weeks of Big Ten play, and have you seen a group kind of separate themselves at the time?
Well, I think Maryland has separated themselves, and I think Iowa has made some separation. I think Indiana right now is playing as good as anybody. Sometimes you get an injury and certain things happen. I think right now the substitution pattern. They're a better defensive team, and I think that was important. Yet Blackman's a heck of an offensive player too. So you lose one, you gain something. But those teams are playing well. Michigan's been playing well. Northwestern, I think, has been playing very well, and us and Purdue are I think are still right there. But we've both struggled a little bit here and there. I mean, that was a tough loss for Purdue at home against Iowa. But I think there's 7-8 teams that are still vying for a lot of things. And, as we start getting a little more into it now, we'll start looking at those schedules and who plays who and who plays who once and who doesn't play who or who doesn't play who on the road as you try to figure out who can win this thing. I know this. The next 5 games for us come in a very rapid way, and it's going to be interesting to figure out how to take a day off here and do this there when you got 4 games, and I don't know what it is, from Thursday to the following Saturday. And so we got our work cut out. I think this is where our depth maybe will help us a little bit. But I think the league is very, very, very good. You look at the Pac-10 and you look at some of these other leagues. I think the Big 12 is very, very good on top. The ACC's got a couple of really good teams on top. The old Big East, with Villanova and Butler and Xavier, there's some good teams in there too. So there's a lot of good basketball played out there right now, and yet there's been some strange upsets too, maybe more so than any year. There's been a lot of bizarre upsets, and just when we say that, we're counting out a team like a Wisconsin who's 1-3, and yet they played everybody right to the wire. And so still got our work cut out.
Tom, is this yet a players coach team, or do you have to go through the nitty-gritty to know that?
That was another, I swear to you, I'm 3 different times yesterday and a day before and a day before that, I informed my players to make sure, you have no homework, watch ESPN, watch these coaches talk about players, and I heard somebody yesterday, I think it was Galloway from he was talking about a player coach team. It brought music to my heart, that players take care of some of those problems. They were talking about in the fight and all the things that happened that night. Sooner or later, players have to manage some of the things. Players understand when people are a little crazier at the hotel or they're goofier in the airplane, and coaches don't always get the privilege of seeing all that, especially with the hours a week that we got to make sure we don't see our guys too much. Another commercial. But anyway, this is not a player coach team yet. And the reason I think it's not yet is it was really starting to get that way, and I think we were heading that way, but we lost our coach for a while. Our coach was out. And to be a player coach team, you got to be playing. And so I think we're going to get back to that, and I think we could have one of the best, because I think Tom holds people accountable, but it really works well when your best player is the coach. And Denzel has got all the ability to do all those things. And I said to you early, I said it to the media, he's got to get a little nastier. When he holds his best friends accountable, then I know he's reached that ultimate stage. And I still think that he was heading that way. We talked about it a lot, and he had the injury. But Denzel's seen a lot sitting on the bench, and I think he's going to be a better player for going through this in that respect. Anything else, guys? Well, handle the weather, would you downstaters? Because I drove into work today. Took 45 minutes to get from my house to here. Because these people, there's 3 inches of snow out there. Do a better job of handling the driving down here, please.